Hi there, you are at the Wyckoff Technical Analysis session for Casper. And if you're new to my sessions, here are the key takeaways, the 3 key takeaways you can expect from my sessions. And let's start with the weekly chart of Casper. So, as we can see, Casper has been going through a downtrend since this time in July, near the end of July, and it's been continuing to where we are at this week, where it just tested this level we call a spring. Okay, it's not a test anymore. So basically it's been confirmed. So this, I'll move it to the right hand side instead because it's a possibility for the price to continue to trade sideways for subsequent tests. So the previous test, that dip over there back in March, April, that was the earlier one after the selling climax we had in October, November time just a year ago. Alright, and the point we have touched, or the price of Casper has touched, is exactly what happened a year ago. Similar time frame, that week, last week of October or the very first few days of November, it touched the exact white line over here. This white line is the bottom edge of the long-term playground zone of Casper. So when I say long-term playground zone, if you're new to this, about 70 or 80% of the time, Casper has been trading within this area. Okay, except the very crazy period during launch. So back to the Wyckoff. Now we are asking whether we are going to see a spring. Okay, a spring means somewhere below the selling climax. We haven't seen any for Casper because it's so young, but if you have watched my other sessions, you have seen many other altcoins have that stage, that Wyckoff stage over there. If this downtrend continues, meaning if any week the candlestick closes below this white dashed line, that's the lowest level of the test back in April. If that happens, there's a tendency for the price to come down further to show us a spring. Okay, that's one possibility. Let's say 20% chance. The other 70 is for it to continue its trading activity within this range, meaning it may break outside of this dark white channel. Alright, so the upside, actually this should be 50, not 70, because these two combined is 70. 30% goes to the sign of strength right over there. Okay, so if it breaks outside of this downtrend and not going down, not going sideways, there's potential for it to come up to challenge the orange key level and maybe even the yellow key level. Those two levels are at the price of 1 cent 60 and 2 cents 40. Why here? Why the yellow level? If you look to the left, that's where the automatic rally back in November 2024 and April, May this year, the sign of strength. Those two times, the trading has tested those levels. Even though the close during April, May this year, it closed much lower, much closer to the orange key level of 1 cent 60. Not that it hasn't tested that level. That's why I say if this is really a sign of strength, what's going to happen is really a sign of strength, then it has to come to the yellow key level of 2 cents 40. Alright, so that's the big picture on the weekly time frame. Subsequently, we may be able to see this backup and last point of support period. It's too early to tell for this one. For Bollinger Band and Keltner squeeze, currently the squeeze is still going on. We're going through a gradual downtrend. That's why I consider we are still going through a squeeze since late April. The squeeze force hasn't been released yet. If you look at the Casper chart, fortunately, even though is still young, there were still quite a number of squeezes that happened. If you're new to this Bollinger Band corner squeeze indicator, what it means is after a swing period, squeeze period, there will be price swings. Sometimes it goes down first before it comes up. Sometimes it goes up first before it comes down. So the indicator tells us a potential price swing is about to happen, but it doesn't tell us which side it goes first. So just use this to gauge that bigger price fluctuation is coming. So let's go to the daily to look at this indicator as well. We are essentially likely in a post-swing period as well, a post-squeeze period as well. So we have this squeeze, and the price already started to go a little bit, or quite significantly higher than the previous period. So when you look at the candlestick bodies, those were very narrow, right? Even if you include the wicks, the range for the past 2 weeks was pretty much this. But now we're this, okay, almost or even more than double than what we have. So that's why I say we probably are seeing the swing happening. So enough of this indicator. What had happened was the spring for, like, in terms of Wyckoff in the daily time frame. Remember, the daily time frame is different from the weekly. So if we look at this, we clearly see the price has gotten close enough to this bottom edge of the long-term playground zone, the white box. If we look back to the left, okay, that's where the low point was back in November 2024, and the price is rebounding towards the ceiling of this downtrend. So if it continues to trade within this triangle, this date pointing towards sometime near November 27th, 28th, okay, is a potential breakout opportunity. But it can take a breakout sooner, given the trend continues. So if we draw a line over here, that's the current uptrend support. You see, over the past 4 days, that's what's going on. Okay, the lows over these past 4 days is on an uptrend. If this continues, interestingly, the price comes in and trades between this orange resistance and this yellow uptrend. In candlestick pattern analysis, people would call this an ascending triangle, and the textbook definition says the price would go up. However, I do remind our community here that the textbook definition of candlestick pattern analysis doesn't always hold true. You can always find exceptions, so that means it's not 100% reliable. However, if this continues, I've already mentioned that there is one near the end of the month, but then it means there is an earlier one, a breakout opportunity that happens probably before next weekend. Okay, if this continues along this yellow trend line for the next 7 days, the chance of it breaking this downtrend ceiling is getting higher when we get closer to the edge of this wedge. Okay, so that is a breakout opportunity further down this month, but we've got one that happens sooner, as soon as in 1 week's time. So hopefully that really is the spring, and then the price continues going up, breaking the ceiling to confirm this downtrend is over. Because if this downtrend isn't over, like I said in the weekly chart while we were talking about it, we don't want to see a weekly candle to go below this dash line, close below this, like what happened last year. If it happens, that means it will take maybe 2 to 3 more weeks before this downward channel can eventually be broken. I mentioned end of this month, but there's also another crossover here, getting very close to Christmas. If the price really doesn't want to go up, the big guys said we don't want to put our money in here in Casper yet, then we may get into sometime near Christmas before that breakout opportunity happens. If it comes down, which is still possible, it's going to make an all-time low, lower than what we had in November 2024. Not saying that would happen, but it's a chance if the downward channel isn't broken, if it continues. These past 4 days provided a bit of optimism, especially today, because 2 days ago there was quite heavy selling from this orange dash line at around 0.008. You see this long wick pushing the price down, okay? But then the fortunate thing is the higher lows that seems to be supporting this movement of Casper. So remember, first time point by the end of next week. Second, by the end of the month. Okay, so when we come back next week, hopefully we'll be celebrating of the end of this downward channel. Alright, interesting time for a lot of altcoins. It may be the lowest point for a lot of altcoins. Finger crossed. Not financial advice, but it looks to me quite a number of altcoins have gone through their spring. So hopefully their real spring will come and they'll get into their new distribution cycle, which means get ready for the price to a new drop after the climb. Okay, thanks for joining me. See you in